And now, making their way into the arena, hailing from the great pro wrestling state of Massachusetts, they are the hosts of the Top of the Cage podcast. Here are Bill and Juice.
And thank you again, Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, making us sound so good. And I am the super producer. I am Bill, joined always by my tag team partner, my wrestling confidant. He is the future booking genius and the prince of pro wrestling podcasts. He is Justin Juice Cannon.
Boom. What you gonna do when Juice Mania comes for you? What runs wild on you? Wow, I fucked that up. Well, I want to try something new and I just fucked it up. So I'm gonna do like all excited with a voice of Hulk, and I'm just too tired for that.
Yes, we are recording at 7:30 in the morning for you. And for me, that's 10:30. So I've been up, but for you, this is the passion for content, Juice. That's what it is.
Yeah, we love delivering you top tier content, and that comes at any time, even in the morning time when I'm just too sleepy.
Can't be the Prince of Pro Wrestling podcast if you're not recording a morning podcast. Well, the reason why we're recording this morning podcast is because there is quite a lot going on currently within the world of professional wrestling. We are recording this on the Saturday after quite a good week of wrestling. I think one of the things, Juice, if we want to start off with here, WWE has been absolutely killing it. And after the Friday Night SmackDown last night's Sammy and Roman segments, I really want either a lot more of that or leading it to a Sammy KO title match.
It's wild to see the dynamic between Sammy and the Bloodline. And for a while, it was kind of just like, why? And like, just little like teases and stuff. And now they're like really spending a lot of time into it and a lot of time into Sammy's dynamic, really focusing around Sammy in the Bloodline and what he has to do. And that's definitely the Triple H influence going on there. I mean, Triple loves Sammy and KO. So I hope this just leads to big things for Sammy and hopefully a title feud. And beyond that, hopefully a title win, because I love Sammy and crowd loves Sammy, man, especially in like Canada. Like Montreal last night was popping. Like they were a great crowd on SmackDown. And then they went even up a higher octave, which I didn't think was possible when Sammy came out. They're just all for Sammy, dude. They're ole, ole chants. It was just beautiful. It brought a smile to my face.
I think it was back in 2015 they had another show in Canada, and I was watching it the other day because Sammy and KO both got absolutely massive pops like they did last night then too. Like it's just so crazy how over like the two best Canadian wrestlers in WWE are in Canada.
As they should, because they're just so freaking talented. And now they're got so much more freedom, and the characters of each that we love the most are starting the show. Even like, I mean, Sammy's the strategist and the sneaky guy, but we're seeing a little influences of old NXT Sammy recently, especially last night. And that, yeah, give me that. I'd love him to turn face eventually.
And I love that Triple H is in control. And I don't want to keep saying like, oh, everything is black and gold NXT, but a lot of it is similar. And one thing I'm loving too is how like intertwined the main event is. Like there's three realistic guys right now that could face Roman, I feel like, from a SmackDown side. But actually maybe even four, if you want to include Kevin Owens, Karrion Kross, Drew McIntyre, and Sami Zayn with the turn. But I think that Drew and KO also the other night, like that fucking promo, like we're wrestlers in a wrestling ring, let's wrestle. That ain't happening under Vince McMahon, Juice. I'm just saying that ain't happening under Vince McMahon.
Everything just feels a lot less rehearsed and scripted. I think these guys, no shade to AEW, but they have freedom in promos and they don't come close to this because just the top guys in WWE, I think, still have the edge. WWE still has the better recruiting, and I think it's starting to actually show now that these guys have more freedom in the promos, have more time in their matches, and the woman too. Like everyone, it just is really starting to show now that a wrestler, a former legendary wrestler, a guy who has a great mind for the business. Triple H is in charge, and we're really hyping up Papa H, but he deserves it, man. He's doing a great job so far.
Yeah, and Juice, I think we'd be remiss to not talk about something that we've been asking for almost a year at this point, and that is the return of Bayley. And she has some sidekicks, and I mean, I don't even want to call them sidekicks. Like they're just great women wrestlers in their own right.
Yeah, it's a great faction. Control. I don't know if that's the official name, but that's kind of what they've been calling themselves.
Yeah, I saw that today too.
Yeah, and it's Bailey, Io Shirai, who's Io Sky now, and Dakota Kai. And I'm all for this faction. Two of my favorites. I love Io and Bailey, and then Dakota I'm warm up on. Like every time I see Dakota, I like warm up more and more on her. She's not like my favorite, but I respect her. She's a good wrestler. I was actually more excited than I thought I would be when I saw her come back, mainly because of how she came back, like just the triple like return and just debut of a all women's faction, which we haven't had one of those like in a while in WWE. Like was like Team Bad the last one, or was there one like after that?
I mean, you had like the Riot Squad.
Oh yeah.
You had Absolution.
Yeah, I think Paige was like the manager of like Kaya
Yeah, Absolution.
Asuka. Oh, that was Absolution. Yeah, I thought there two iterations of
Oh
Absolution.
no, Kyrie and Asuka. Yeah, I think that she did do some work with them.
She
There
did.
might have been two iterations of it too.
Yeah, because I know she was with Mandy and Sonia, and then I know she did Kyrie and Asuka for like 4 seconds.
Yeah, hot minute.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any others. I mean, I guess like Sasha Bailey, if you want, because they were just dominant together. But
Yeah, I mean, faction, I'd say like at least three.
yeah, I
I'm
agree.
thinking, and I mean, obviously like Toxic Attraction, but that's NXT.
Very true. Well, we did see them up recently. What did you think about that?
It's good. I mean, the reason that they were there because of a Zoe Stark injury again. She
Mm-hmm.
suffered on Tuesday, which I'm not sure if it's like kayfabe or what, but like it was supposed to be Zoe Stark and Keita Lyons versus Sonya and Natalia, and it should have just been Toxic Attraction versus Natalia and Sonya from the get go.
It made no sense. It really made no sense.
Yeah, like it. I mean, I like Zoe Stark. I'm actually a big fan. I kind of wish she beat Mandy so Mandy can move up and Zoe, gets a good run with the title. And like she was used as a tag wrestler for a while before her injury. And now that she's in a singles push, I was hoping they just go all the way with it, have her win at Heatwave. But she lost and she's injured. And then, but Toxic Attraction getting on SmackDown and having a great performance. Like I enjoyed it. They did a really good job. Mainly just telling the story and really being those like cocky heels that we know and love on NXT. They really remind me of the Iconics, and I miss and love the Iconics. So give me that, and then yeah, give them a push. Like they're in the semifinals. They're probably not gonna get out of the semifinals.
Getting a win over like a veteran women's tag team too is just good for their reputation. I'm glad that they went over, and I think that they looked pretty good in the win too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's gonna lead to the call up soon. I know that's all the reports, and I'm sure if they're coming, that means Mandy probably is. So I'm curious who she'll drop the title to, if anyone. And I'm excited to see the next round, Raquel and Aaliyah versus Toxic, and see how that match looks. I'm not the biggest fan of Aaliyah, but I think it could still be a good match because just I think it's good character contrast, and I think they'll complement each other well in the ring.
One other thing I feel like I want to talk about WWE before we move on from it. I am so fucking excited to see the two lads, the two big men, Gunther and Sheamus, just fucking slap meat all around the ring in the UK. I am so excited for that.
Their chests and necks are gonna be so red and so many. It's gonna be like Ilya versus Walter all over again. That's gonna be brutal. and I'm so excited to see it.
Yeah, like I was reading a lot of things last night when Sheamus won, and yeah, everybody was like, they're not gonna have skin. Like these men are gonna have broken pinkies. Like, but that crowd is gonna go crazy for that match too. Like I just am so excited to just experience the energy that's going to be generated from that crowd when it's when two I would call Sheamus like a home just a European star, you know, like so they're gonna just cheer it up for the two lads from Europe, and I I'm just so excited for that match. I think there's a lot of expectations for it, but I know both guys will deliver.
Both guys are good at meeting or exceeding expectations. Usually Sheamus matches, even though like especially past few years, he's been so good. Like people don't have like super high expectations most of the time for the matches, and that usually leads to being very well entertained. And Walter or Gunther, he always has super high expectations for matches, and he usually meets them or exceeds them, which is crazy. So I think this is definitely a deliver. Be match of the night at Clash of the Castle. It should be a pretty fun event. I'm excited for it.
Me too. Like this is I feel like we were talking about this last night too. This is the first time in WWE since like the COVID time, like back just like Sasha Bailey running COVID, that I've been really excited for WWE. Like almost a little bit more than AEW. Actually, probably more than AEW at this point, honestly.
Yeah, which we'll definitely get to our thoughts on AW recently. But one last thing I kind of want to bring up with WWE is them really not just focusing on the men's division, but really giving more attention to the tag, especially like we know Vince's thoughts on tag team wrestling. He's like, it's not dry. I have to pay 4 people in one match, whatever. But it's really getting a focus. Like we see a big feud with New Day and the new vicious Viking Raiders, and usually we don't see like a secondary tag feud that doesn't have the titles in it. And I'm loving it. I love the vicious Viking Raiders like image. I love Viking shit. Like give me a Viking like anime or a Viking like TV show like The Last Kingdom. Like I watch the shit of it. So like give me Viking wrestlers and make them vicious and do Viking vignettes. I'm all for it.
That vignette was so fucking sick too. Like I was watching it just in bed. I was like, holy shit. Like I would watch a movie. Like if this just continued on, like I would watch it. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, give me more of those. Like the music, the Viking funeral, just like Sarah Logan making little
Yeah, the Sarah
things.
Logan appearance. Yep.
It was fire. I was like, oh, this is so hype. They did a great job with the vignettes last night because Karrion Kross had a fire one. It's just awesome. But I'm excited for WWE Tag Team Wrestling again. I mean, we've had some great matches with the Usos and the Street Profits and New Day, but it's really just been the 3 tag teams. And now the women's tag team division is finally getting more focus, and we're gonna have actual women's tag teams. The men's tag teams that aren't in the title picture are getting more focus, like the Alpha Academies and the Viking Raiders and all of them. And hopefully, I like maximum male models. I hope they get more focus in tag division, which it looks like because them and Hit Row had a little run in last night. I love to see Hit Row back, even without Swerve. I'm excited for the tag division because tag wrestling has been my favorite recently in the past couple of years. Like most of my matches of the years are tag matches. So I'm all for it. They got the talent, and I don't think the tag division is that below the AEW tag division. I think it's just how they've been booked, and they're really starting to show that.
Juice, another thing we were talking about last night. I have actually been relatively interested in the G1. Like I feel like just because it is like a bigger thing in wrestling, like we saw Lance Archer in it, like and like bigger stars always want to be a part of it and winning it. The names of people that were in there, and I would say that a lot of them I got exposed to from the Forbidden Door, like Osprey, Okada, like Naito, like I was very interested in it, and it seems like a lot of people were like, yeah, like match of the year, like few of them could easily come from this tournament.
This year was kind of first year since I really started paying attention to G1 that I wasn't as interested. And I think the main reason was that when I looked, there were only like two people that aren't New Japan that were in it, and it was Jonah and Archer. Might be missing one, but I'm pretty sure those are like those are like the two that. Well, Jonah's kind of New Japan recently. Like he's been in New Japan America shows all the time recently. But those are like the two new guys that, well, not two new, but two fresher faces, not pure New Japan talent in the bracket. And that made me think that the winner is going to be someone who's won before, been in the finals before, like a bit one of their bigger names, like either Jay White, who we've seen win before, Okada, who just tied the record with the win recently, the win 2 nights ago, Naito. Just I thought it was definitely gonna be repeat, which made me less interested. But then the finals got high reviews that we heard between Osprey and Okada in a rematch from Wrestle Kingdom, and Tama Tonga really getting even with Jay White in the semifinals. I really want to watch that match. I heard that was awesome, and like that's a cool moment. I like God. I love Jay White, so that would have been just me going back and forth the whole match. And the blocks is interesting too, like Zack Saber and having the lead for a while in his block, and then losing the Naito and the block final. And then Naito losing in the semifinals, and then we saw the tiebreaker between Jay White and Tama, and then just a lot of drama and a lot of interesting things that made it fresher than I thought it was gonna be. Definitely, I'm gonna go back and watch some of these like later matches, like the semifinals, the finals, and Tama Tonga versus Jay White, of course, too.
I like to see that Jonah looked pretty strong throughout it too. Like that's pretty cool. I also think I'm gonna go out and actively watch that finals match at least. It got a 5.75 from Meltzer, I remember, if I remember correctly. So like you can't ignore that that's a really good wrestling match. And now I know who both guys are and like understand their characters from, like I said, just from Forbidden Door. So ready to see those two guys tear it down.
I'm sure it's great. They got a lot of chemistry, different styles that make it really fun, and they're both very fast paced. They make these longer New Japan matches fly by, which is definitely a must. Especially Osprey, like the dude can make a 35-minute match feel like a 12-minute match.
And Juice, one last thing we wanted to talk about on this episode is, of course, AEW. We alluded it a little before. AEW, and I'm going to go out in a bold statement here, there's been some quality drop recently. I feel like WWE has been putting out the better wrestling product. AEW has some good things going for them. I'm really interested in what's going to happen with the world title now. Kenny Omega is back, and I'm a very big Kenny fan, especially with the Bucks. The Trios tournament also is looking pretty cool. But like, I don't know. I feel like last night's Rampage and like this week's Dynamite, like outside of a few matches, weren't as good as WWE's two shows during the week.
I still have to watch and kind of recap on Rampage. But yeah, Dynamite recently, well, Rampage has been just the matches, it kind of just seems like developmental. So most of the time I just read recaps. Like probably past 6 episodes I haven't watched. Just read recaps, or like I'll watch one match from them because I'm just not interested in any of it. And then you hear about like how the majority of people left, and they had to a couple weeks ago, and they had to do like post-production things and make it seem like there were more people there than there really were. And just sounds like some WWE stuff when they were in the slump. And that's not good to hear. And Dynamite, there still is always at least one like great match, but you need more than just great matches. You need good feuds. You need good story progressions, and everything just seems kind of recycled and kind of stale at times. Like they got great characters which can make this work, like Will Hobbs and Ricky. Like we've seen that type of feud in AEW so many times, but I'm still into it because of mainly Ricky, and then even a little bit Hobbs too. Like I'm interested to see where it goes, but we've seen that type of story. So when they keep doing that type of feud the same exact way with the same exact ending and the same exact moments in the feud, like it gets old, and you kind of just get up. You don't have to pause the DVR or wait till commercial. You just get up, make popcorn, or go to the bathroom during the show because you already know what's going to happen. So who cares if you miss a minute or two? they need this to fix that and fix the booking. I think it starts with Tony. I think Tony's done a great job, and I'm not taking away from Tony. I'm not saying stop making booking decisions, but I know he's not doing it all by himself. He has help, but I think he should really maybe give someone more control or maybe split the duties more evenly in booking, like have Regal involved or bring someone in new. Like there's plenty of wrestlers with a great knowledge of the business that aren't working right now that are just, at home, and they'd probably be very willing to come in and work, especially for a fat check, which Tony's got plenty of money. So I think he's got to do something just to get the interest really fully back.
Yeah, and I've heard some like rumblings about like their TV deals and like people getting bought out. And I feel like if they're competing for a TV deal or like trying to get competitive with WWE from a TV perspective, like not doing as good as they could do. I think that's a really good point that you brought up though, about maybe like somebody else needs to come in. And yeah, I completely agree. It's different. And I feel like we're seeing this with WWE when you have a wrestler running wrestling. They just get it. They get storytelling, they get how to just progress a feud that doesn't need to have a match every week. They understand feuds in general. But I feel like AEW does have a few good feuds going on right now. I think the most confusing one right now is CM Punk calling out Hangman in his promo, and then they just made Hangman look like a little bitch. Like the reports on that have been pretty wild too, that apparently CM Punk went into business for himself. So I don't really know what to expect from that right now.
Yeah, I mean that pissed me off. And like CM Punk being a little like diva bitch. Like, dude, you're a great wrestler, but like the ego, chill it. Like, I mean, it's hard to chill it when you're like so successful and fans love you so much, and you are like associated with so many like classic matches and stuff, and you're a legend. So you're gonna be a little diva and feel entitled to everything, and everything has to go your way. But I don't know. I don't like you shooting on my boy, man. Like, stop being a little princess.
Yeah, I was just sad. Like I was like, oh, Hangman isn't a little bitch. Like, how dare you do that?
Yeah, saying coward shit. I was like, I want to slap you.
Well, that's the thing though, is maybe it's just we're getting worked. I mean, I feel like AEW is doing that really well with blurring work and reality, which I don't know, from the MJF situation, I think it might be reality, but
Do you hear MJF might be raring to come back soon, though?
oh, I feel like they need him. Like I feel like now that Kenny's back, if you bring back MJF as another pillar, I'm interested again. Because all the other storylines like we were talking about aren't terrible, but like the world title scene is just confusing to me right now.
I'd say the major dip was after Double Nothing, and it's mainly because of MJF getting off TV. And before that, MJF was carrying shows. You want to watch what he says and does. The dude has fresh things and storylines, like these little like presidential debate things and like the sing along, like things we don't see and are fresh and new. And then he just does fire promos. Like the dude keeps topping himself every time he talks.
Well, and the thing too, that Wardlow storyline we had been waiting for years, literally since the beginning of AEW. Everybody wanted to see that feud blow off, and it makes sense that MJF is the common denominator between great things that have happened in WWE or in AEW, like the Jericho musical. Like that was just so silly and over the top, but amazing. Like that was a top promo of that year. Like I don't know. I feel like you need to pay your stars, and MJF is a guy that I would pay money for, and I hope that he does come back soon because I do miss him. But as we alluded to earlier too, we have had the return of one Kenny Omega, who I think has been the greatest AEW World Champion so far, and I feel like that's not that hard to argue with, unless you want to argue with it.
No, I agree with that.
So I'm really excited to see him in the Bucks in the Trios tournament. I kind of hope they win it, but at the same time, I hope we get like a actual up and coming Trios tag team to beat them in the finals, and then it's just like a show of respect.
Yeah, I'm really curious how the tournament unfolds. And Kenny come back was awesome. I'm excited he's finally back. And I love that like BTE has been playing like a big part in Young Bucks feuds, which does add like a freshness to the show. And Kenny being back definitely will up the quality, I think, and get interest. Like he got a huge pop, and I'm excited to see what he does. But he was a little bit of rust, but like it's been like what 10 months, so that's expected. Like you definitely need to take those breaks when most of your matches are like 30 to 45 minutes, and like you do a bunch of death matches, and your body, yeah, like his body must be in so much pain. So like I understood him taking a long break, and it definitely like ups returns and stuff. And I love that recently they're not fully relying on a debut every week for pops like they were like after all the 90 days were up. They're not doing that as much recently. So that's good that they're getting pops other ways, and that's definitely must. And they gotta keep capitalizing on that, like these surprise turns, surprise returns, and stuff like that to get reactions and not just cheap debuts. And it's funny that I'm like attacking AEW for them using debuts or long like for pops when a WWE just had like what 5 pops from these release returns in a row.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think AEW is just building right now. I do agree though with the pop thing. Like that's actually a really good point that they were just kind of relying on. I hate to say XWWE guys, but a lot of them were.
Yeah, or even like New Japan pops during the Forbidden Door stuff, which that's fine. Like everyone was waiting for Okada. Like that's a good pop. That's a good decision.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. Because like I was saying when we are talking about New Japan, like it did expose me to a lot of good wrestlers that I'm now like actively seeking out their things. So I think both sides won from that definitely. But yeah, I don't know. I think like since Forbidden Door though, like I feel like that's where WWE has just kind of slowly been gaining the momentum.
For sure. And then just two quick last things I want to say about AEW, and you're free to say whatever. But one, I already brought up like Tony Khan's booking, and one thing I noticed this week, I mean, you can defend it in like if it makes the booking make sense to you, definitely explain it and say why. So Acclaimed and the Gun Club have been going back and forth, and I've liked it majority, but we saw the Gun Boys betray Daddy Ass this week, which like Stokely scouting off and Billy being really tough on them, like that made sense. That wasn't my issue with the booking. My issue with the booking is who saved Daddy Ass. It was the Acclaimed, and I get that the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass were really close when all 5 of them together. But who led the charge for the Gun Boys to betray Daddy Ass? Who was the really real person that betrayed the Acclaimed? It was Daddy Ass. So why would you save the man that was the main person who betrayed you? That makes no sense.
I will admit I did love the Scissor Me Daddy ass, but I understand completely where you're coming from.
Like it was a cool moment, but I feel like the only reason they did the turn is so they could use that line.
Yeah, that is a great fucking line that you gotta admit.
Like, but I mean, I'll be patient, see where it goes, because they're two good young tag teams. I like to see it's been a fun feud. I've been actually interested in it and stuff. But it's just like that. I'm like, why is that the person? Like, I knew it was gonna happen. Like, like I'm like, okay, so Clam's gonna come out. That doesn't make sense, but they're probably coming out. And then they came out. It was just weird. And Stokely Hathaway, is he not with Jade anymore?
Well, he after Rampage, he was.
He was okay.
He had a segment where he was just maniacally laughing, holding a sledgehammer.
So he's just scouting everyone.
Hey man, you know what they say? Always play both sides, so you always come out on top.
Yeah, I guess it's a smart strategy. Plus, I won't complain about having more Stokely Hathaway on my TV. Like AW does have some great managers right now, like Mark and well, mainly those two. I love those two. Daddy Ass is a good manager too. But yeah, I like.
We did get the return of Don Callis too.
Oh yeah, and Don, you can't forget the Carney.
A Carney bastard. You said you had one more point to talk about?
Yeah, let's see if I can remember it.
I do have one thing I want to bring up before, if maybe it's the same thing as you. Do you believe that the Blackpool Combat Club is the best thing going on in AEW right now? I think that all of their wrestlers are just in the most prolific feuds in AEW right now, being now Claudio, Dustin Rhodes, and Claudio just in general as Ring of Honor World Champ. Moxley as interim World Champ. Now he's feuding with CM Punk, and then obviously Garcia Danielson. Like that was also a really good fucking technical match. But and Yuta, like I can't forget Wheeler, that's my boy. But like I think that they are the best thing going on in AEW right now.
I think in terms of being booked in these big time matches and big time feuds, but like honestly, I mean Garcia and Bryan Danielson matches, those were great. And it was a good feud, and we see Garcia kind of starting to drift away and maybe join Blackpool Combat Club. The other two, like, I'm not the biggest fan of the Mox character. It's not that I'm against him. Like, I love Dean Ambrose. John Moxley hasn't done it for me.
I think that's a pretty bold claim because I've been loving John Moxley.
I know a lot of people do. It's just like, for me, it's the same promo over and over again. It's just like, I'm tough and you're tough, but I'm tougher. And it's just, that's the gist. And that's all I get from it. And matches, they're good, but it's just nothing that really pops out. Like, none of the matches that he's had really blow me away and strike me as a classic or above, like, I don't know if I'm rating him like 3.5, 3.75. Like, when I think of the best AEW matches, 0 of Moxley's I even consider. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're not classics. And if you're going to be one of their top guys, probably they're the face of the company at this point, you need a couple star matches, star moments. And there's not really moments that I think of that are Moxley that are like massive. I know that people are going to be like, what are you talking about? There's this and that and stuff like that. You even talked about the political campaign between MJF and Mox. I'm like, yeah, but that was MJF. MJF made that, not Mox. And then Mox's matches, I like the Yuta one, but that was mainly because of Yuta.
I feel like Dean, or rather Mox, is good with character. Like I feel like he's a good character work guy in ring. You know, like I think that if he has a good dance partner, he tells a good story in the ring. Like him and Jericho told a good story in the ring. It wasn't the best match, but the story was pretty good. Like you're saying with Yuta, like him and Yuta, they just meshed really well. They had really good chemistry. And if you give and the Danielson stuff, that was all pretty good.
Oh, actually, Danielson and Mox, that's a match I did like.
And like that whole feud where it's like, I don't want to be with anybody I don't bleed with. Like that's a top Moxley moment right there. Jeez, that was a great line.
I'll give that. It was a good line, but the fact that I didn't remember it right away and the Danielson Mox feud is, that's the creation of Blackpool. It kind of just says that Mox, even when these moments that should be memorable aren't memorable to me. It's just, I kind of just want a big curveball of Mox just leaving and going WWE. I'll be honest, but I know that's a minority. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that. And if all the matches and moments that he's had in AEW are for you, then awesome. I know you're a big fan of him, and I'm not going to take that away from anybody and say, like, get him off my TV because he is talented. Because I just said, like, I love Dean Ambrose. That's probably, like, my favorite member of the Shield. So I respect him as a wrestler. He's an awesome wrestler. It's just the Mox character isn't doing it for me. And I thought it would. Like, I remember Mox came out in the poker chips and attacked, and I loved it. And he was probably one of my, like, 3 favorite AEW guys. And I didn't really start to turn on him until probably the Jake Hager title defense. That's when I started to turn on him. And I know that's stereotypical, like, oh, they finally get the title win, then you turn. Like, I know. I usually don't do that, but for him, I did because it was just a bad match. And, like, that was when I started to notice that every promo with him follows the same formula. It's not the same, but it's just like, I'm tough, you're tough, but I'm tougher. You got ego, and I just want to fight. Like, it's the same shit over and over again, and I just get tired of it.
I can definitely understand where you're coming from, though. But we will agree to disagree there.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's what wrestling, everyone's got their own cup of tea, and that's fine. So I remembered what I was going to bring up. And it's something that someone we haven't really seen on TV recently. But I remember Double Nothing, the turn capitalized, and she's been used on AEW Dark, and she has a new character. And I want her on my TV because every time I actually like watch Dark, but I only watch her matches on Dark, and then I don't watch the rest of Dark because I like her entrance now. I like her edginess. It's Julia Hart. Julia Hart in the
Mm-hmm.
House of Black. It made me more interested in House of Black. Like, you know, like House of Black's been like, you know, like it's fun matches, but I haven't been fully invested. Now I want House of Black on my TV, but I only want them on my TV if Julia Hart's there too. I love Julia Hart. Like, I think her promos are really good. Now let's get to edginess, and her character work has been really blowing me away. It's some of the best character work in the company right now. Like matches, she's got that aggressive, like she's stomping people, and like her wrestling style has completely changed to fit this character and her entrance. And she's like the cutest person alive, but like she looks like intimidating. And I'm like, how? Like you're like adorable, like a cute girl, and like you actually look tough and like you're gonna break someone's jaw. Like she's doing a great job, and I want her on my TV more.
I feel like it's akin to the goddess Alexa Bliss start. Like with Blake and Murphy, she was the manager. And then all of a sudden, just the mean streak came in, and she becomes a multi-time women's champion. Like, and arguably like one of the better women of like the last 5 years. Like, I see a lot of that right now. Like, I feel like that we're getting a lot of like, okay, now we're getting serious. Now we're doing real character work. Now we're doing real moves in the ring. Like, it's very good and it's refreshing. And like you said, House of Black, I think, is also one of the best things going on in AEW right now. And I think after Rampage 2, where we had the unexpected Miro just had Malachi's mask, like that was pretty badass too. Unexpected Miro always gets me a pop too. But yeah, I think Julia Hart's actually really been killing it too. I love the new gear, love the new look. And I think that that's just a really good sentiment to what AEW can tell a story good. Like the whole House of Black thing where she got misted, slowly was growing, slowly was growing. Everybody knew it was coming, and then it finally came and it delivered. So I agree. Like that's some top tier AEW going on right now.
Yeah, now they're just when they do that, they have to realize you have to follow up. So you have to get her more involved on TV, not just dark and squashing people. Always the main criticism AEW has been their treatment of the women's division. It's still a huge issue, especially recently. Like Thunder Rosa as champ has been pretty underwhelming so far, and I feel like they're pushing the wrong people right now. And still push your top leagues like the Thunder Rosas, just change how you do it, and Britt Baker's, but also fans are really feeling Julia Hart and people like that. So get them more active. And then there's Layla Hirsch's too. That's incredible in the ring. Like push them, try something new, try to give them at least a certain amount of time every week. People like women's wrestling, so utilize it. You do have young, talented wrestlers. Is the pool as good as an Impact or WWE? No, but it's still something you can work with. And the only way these girls are gonna get better and really deliver is give them that time. Like you see what happens when you give them a main event, like in St. Patrick's Day a couple years ago. Like Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa had like debatably the AEW match of the year. Like that's what happens when you actually dedicate a huge chunk of time to them. So do it, especially, and I think people will surprise you, especially people like Julia Hart, and it's gonna keep hyping her up. Give Julia Hart my TV. I think she's gonna surprise you, Tony.
I don't think that's a bold claim at all. I completely agree with you. And Juice, if the people do not agree with you or they agree with you and just want to give you an ego boost, where can they do so?
On Twitter, capital T, capital O, capital T, capital C, underscore, capital P, lowercase o, lowercase d. On Instagram, TOTC underscore POD, all lowercase.
Yes, and as we come crashing down to the mat on this episode of Top of the Cage, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Music and you do not give us a 5-star rating, that means that you, specifically you, that person that did not give us that 5-star rating, will not get 5-star content. And that is just a fact.
Fact.
And again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.